Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us from the comfort of your homes. We're here at Sophie's for the TCSL meditation this morning. So I invite you to close your outer eyes and begin to allow yourself to arrive in this present moment, this moment now, the only moment that actually exists right here and right now. With eyes closed, take a deep, deep breath, like expanding into your belly. Straighten your spine. Keep your eyeballs covered with the sheets of your eyelids, and try to hold them still. Again, breathe in deeply through your nose, expanding your ribcage to its fullest. Hold for a moment. Then release slowly through your nose, exhaling completely. Let's do this a couple times. Hold your consciousness in the awareness of the life force that is your breath. Now loosen your mind from the consciousness of body weight. Continue to breathe with awareness. Relax the nerve strings that are attached to the heavy muscles and bones of your body. Forget the consciousness of carrying a heavy bundle of body tied in the thick cloth of flesh. Just rest. Breathe in, breathe out. Rest. Free your mind from the consciousness of bodily restraint. Allow the boundaries of flesh to become permeable. Continue to breathe deeply as you feel your soul untied from the constant material quality of heaviness. Mentally, imagine your soul having an experience beyond bodily constraint, rising up, out, soaring, above, beneath, left, right, in infinity, or wherever you want to go. You are free. Feel and meditate on this, your mental freedom from your body. Dream, dwell, and feel this body aboveness when sitting still. The consciousness of freedom will constantly increase. Your soul has no limits, no constraints, no boundaries. Free to be wherever and whenever you choose. Rising above the earthly realm, take flight. Feel the I am in your freedom. I am infinite. I am spaceless. I am tireless. I am beyond body, thought, and utterance. I am beyond all matter and mind. I am endless bliss. I am no longer the wave of consciousness, thinking itself separated from the sea of cosmic consciousness. I am the ocean of spirit that has become a wave of human life. I allow myself to rest with ease, just breathing, being, giving my soul an opportunity to remember vastness, to remember the infinite, to remember the wholeness and peace from which it is created. With the coming music or silence, continue your expansiveness. Continue to breathe deeply into your freedom. thank you so much for joining us today. And for those that are here and those that are home, please join us again at 10:45 for our Sunday service. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. We're so glad that you have joined us here at Sophie's, or you have invited us into your home through StreamYard and live streaming. It's an absolutely amazing, beautiful day, and I will tell you that our theme for the month is play, so I have added a little amount of play to my outfit today. I have... So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the privilege and the honor of being this amazing community's spiritual director or senior minister. We are part of a larger group called Centers for Spiritual Living, and we believe that there is one power and presence that is back of everything seen and unseen. We believe that this power and presence is that creative power, and that we were created in its image and likeness. Therefore, we too have the ability to create the experiences of our lives. And in fact, we're doing it every single moment of every single day, whether we're doing that consciously or unconsciously. And so we gather together to celebrate each other, to celebrate life, to celebrate the divinity that is within us and surrounding us, and to support each other on our spiritual path. So we are very grateful that you have decided to join us today. Thank you all so very much. I have a couple of announcements before we get started, and the first is that our lovely flower dedication today is for all of those people, whether you're out in virtual land or you're here, who are celebrating their birthdays in March. So this flower dedication is dedicated to all of you. And while we would love to be able to speak your name into the room, we don't want to leave off one single person off the list, so we're simply dedicating it to anyone with a birthday in March. So see if this sounds like you. Is there anyone here right now in this moment with a birthday in March? No. Okay, all right. So see if this sounds like you or like someone you know who has a birthday in March. Affection and charisma are the qualities which are often associated with people born in the month of March. They are very compassionate and love to serve others. Honesty and reliability are among the various virtues possessed by these individuals. Most of them are born under the zodiac sign of Pisces and can be described as romantic, sensitive, emotional, honest, and sympathetic. Generally, they are selfless and very generous. They are imaginative, intuitive, artists by nature, and attracted to the beautiful things in life. They are the most sensitive and intuitive of all of the zodiac signs. They adapt to their surroundings very easily and are guided more by intuition than by structure. Those born in March are ideal partners and friends. We see you. We know who you really are. We're grateful for you. We celebrate the day that you arrived on the planet, and we love you. Happy birthday. And since she just walked in, I am going to say happy birthday to Lola, who is celebrating a birthday this month. So happy birthday to all those with birthdays in March. Secondly, March is the official Women's History Month. So Women's History Month is a celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society. It has been observed annually in the month of March in the United States since 1987. The month offers us an opportunity to commemorate and to encourage the study, observance, and celebration of the vital role of women in the history of the United States. So please take a look at this video.
Women's History Month on this March 1st, and we want to turn out to one by four the Bridget James Systematic History lesson on how it all grew into the celebration of women in the world today. If is March 1st, which marks the beginning of Women's History Month, a month-long celebration to honor women's often overlooked contributions to American history. Like those of Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman to officially become a doctor in the United States in 1849. Sojourner Truth, Susan B. Anthony, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, all leaders in the women's suffrage movement. And Harriet Tubman, who led hundreds of enslaved people to freedom. But what's the history behind Women's History Month? It all began in 1978 with only a week-long celebration. It was organized by the Sonoma County Commission on Women. The week of March 8th was selected to correspond with International Women's Day, which had been celebrated around the world on March 8th since 1911. The movement began to gain momentum, and the following year, other communities and school districts initiated their own celebrations of Women's History Week. Then in 1980, the National Women's History Project lobbied for national recognition, and they were heard, because in February of that year, President Jimmy Carter issued the first proclamation, which declared the week of March 8th as National Women's History Week. 6 years later, the same organization petitioned for an expansion on the event, and in March of 1987, Congress passed Public Law 100-9, proclaiming March as Women's History Month. Now, every March and all month long, we celebrate countless extraordinary women who've earned their place at the table. And the rest, as they say, is history.
It's history.
And the rest, as they say, is herstory. So, happy Women's Month to all of the women in this country and internationally, and we really celebrate all of the contributions that have been made throughout history by
Thank
all
you,
of them
Juju
and all
Chen.
of us. So, in the spirit of the theme of the month being play, I have a joke for you today. I don't often do this, but so a pastor is preaching on loving your enemies. He expounds on the value of grace and forgiveness for all, and how we are called to love our neighbors and our enemies as much as we love ourselves. So the congregation is roused to action and filled with the Holy Spirit. The pastor asks them all, "Will you go out into the world and love your enemies?" Every hand in the congregation goes up except for one. The pastor sees that it's a little old lady in the front row. He asks the woman, "Why can't you love your enemies?" And the little old lady says, "Pastor, I can honestly say that I have no enemies." And the pastor says, "That's incredible. May I ask how old you are?" 96, she says. And the pastor says, 96 years old and no enemies? That's incredible. Would you mind sharing how you have achieved this? The little old lady totters up to the front of the church, turns around to the congregation and says, "I outlived all those snakes." So I would like to take a moment to thank licensed spiritual practitioner Michelle Love for her beautiful meditation this morning, which expanded the container that our service will unfold within. Thank you very much, Michelle. And speaking of Michelle, let's all please welcome her back to the podium.
Thank you, Dusty. Good morning, everyone. Our theme for the month of March is play. The theme for the year 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. And Reverend Dusty's talk title today is Playing Twister with God. I'm going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives into being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God, and so it is. So I invite you now to take a moment to close your outer eyes, Giving ourselves just a few moments to turn within, to become fully present, fully here in this moment now, and allow the healing sounds of the crystal bowls to wash through you.
Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths as represented by this ceremony. Please welcome Reverend Jim Rigsby, who will be assisting this morning. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Jim. And now I'd like to ask you to join me in closing your eyes one more time as I speak an invocation. Here we are in another glorious morning on God's green earth, where the beauty of spring is starting to bust out all over. And I recognize that sense of expansion, that sense of joy, that sense of light and love is in, as, and through each and every one of us here in the congregation of the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. And so I speak a blessing on the service this morning, knowing that we are here on purpose, that we all receive something that lights us up and creates more love and more joy in our lives, and we pass that forward. And I speak a blessing on Reverend Dusty, knowing that she is totally filled with the light and the love of Spirit, and that she radiates that through her every word today, and that she is truly blessed in her service to this community. And I speak a word on the congregation and of blessing on the congregation, and I speak a word of blessing on Sandy Hemingway as he brings his beautiful gift of music and song, which lifts us and fills us with joy. And so I know today is whole, complete, and perfect, and I give thanks that that is the truth, and so it is.
So it is.
And now, the reading by Victor Shamas. He says, "Play is a sacred act. When we are playing, the essence of all creation flows freely through us. We are expressing our true nature and connecting with the very core of our existence. Nothing is more sacred than that." And now for some joy and play, Sandy Hemingway.
So when I saw the talk topic of playing Twister with God, I couldn't really see a song in my repertoire that actually went with that. But I noticed that the theme for the month was play. And so instead of doing a song, I'm actually just going to play. This is something I've written songs for many, many decades now. And I'm going to play a song that I actually wrote almost 40 years ago. And it's a piece that I play for myself all the time when I'm feeling down or I'm in a bad mood. It's called Happy. And for some people, put on music and like to dance, and it makes them feel better. For me, playing, the feeling of my hands on the keyboard is a form of play for me. And this is a song that literally for decades has helped me. Like I said, it's called Happy. Thank you.
That's absolutely amazing. I can see why that would make you happy. I remember here in the corner dancing around. I'm feeling pretty happy myself. I'll tell you, Pharrell has nothing. For sure. So, I don't know about you, but between meditation and prayer and contemplation and really acting the part of a serious spiritual person, I don't always have time for prayer or for play or prayer. So on one hand, deeply connecting with the divine can sometimes feel like serious work. On the other hand, Spirit has created each and every single one of us with an overflowing capacity for joy and for balance and for freedom. And yet we seem to have a very human tendency to get caught up in the busyness of the day and forget to engage in these other essential qualities of the divine that are within us. We even forget that they're qualities of God at all. Now, in the Declaration of Principles, Ernest Holmes says, we believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. So if this is true, which I believe that it is, then it's vitally important for us to become more conscious of the playful qualities of the divine that are within us, so that we can experience really the fullness of who and what we really are. Play is a sacred activity. It's a spiritual practice. It is a thing of spirit. It is actually the exuberant expression of our being. I love that word, the exuberant expression of our being. And it's absolutely necessary for each one of us in order to be all that we were created to be. We have to take the time for play. Being playful is what we do to stay open, to stay receptive, to remain light, and to celebrate our capacity for just having fun with each other. The truth is that Spirit is always dancing in, through, and around each of us every moment of every day. It's calling us. It's calling us to celebrate it. All of it. The serious and the silly. In Victor Shamus, who was the quote for this morning, the author of The Way of Play, Reclaiming Divine Fun and Celebration, writes, play is a sacred act. When we are playing, the essence of all creation flows freely through us. Right? We are expressing our true nature and connecting with the very core of our existence. There is nothing more spiritual than that. Now, if play is not an activity in our daily lives, then we are encouraged to make it be so, because it connects us with a sense of wonder and a sense of joy that is really who we are. It's at the heart of our creativity and our most carefree moments of devotion. It is what connects us to our curiosity, to that innate imagination that we have within us. Now, play is how we engage with our bodies. It's how we engage with each other. It's how we engage with our minds. It's how we engage with our world, simply for the fun of it, simply for the joy of it, with no other agenda. Play is without purpose. Even when we're playing to win, which we do quite often, the real victory is in being a part of or being witness to a moment of shared transcendence, a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. I love that word, unadulterated, meaning not very adult, right? It's more childlike in nature. It's unadulterated joy. Play is healing to the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. It connects us with others, and it inspires our greater yet to be. In the Declaration of Principles, Ernest Holmes also wrote, "We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of any nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all." So, as we begin to really focus on and begin to really understand that we are literally playing with the divine all of the time, then we will, in fact, be able to really tap into those divine qualities of freedom, balance, and joy. Those qualities that naturally flow through us all of the time. They're part of our innate nature, part of our deep connection with God, even though we might not always feel that. It's always there. It assists us to live, this idea of play assists us to live with the fear, the doubt, the worry, the paradox, the absurdity, and the mystery of our human life. The sages have known the value of play throughout eons, and experts on the social effects of play say that people who engage in purely enjoyable or purposeless activities tend to be less violent. They tend to be more empathetic and more trusting, and also more adaptable to life's challenges. We need to engage in purposeless activities frequently throughout all of our entire lives. A lack of discord and a release of this need that we sometimes have to struggle through our lives is released. It's released when we play, and it emerges in our life when we live our lives from this perspective, from our deep and abiding awareness of the importance of play in our lives. Now, when I take time to get quiet and reflect, I really recognize that all of life is spiritual, that everything that we are and that everything that we do is spiritual. So not only meditation or prayer or contemplation or watching a sunset or a sunrise, but literally everything that we do. So making our lunch or cleaning the toilet or driving our car or really spending time with our friends is spiritual. And it's because everything in form, or everything that we see, everything that we do, everything that we don't do, and everything that we don't see is spirit in form. It can really be no other way. It's the only thing that is going on. Dallas Willard once wrote that God is the most joyful being in the universe. If the goal of our faith is to imitate God, shouldn't we seek experiences that bring us joy and connect us with what the Bible calls the joy of God? Makes sense, yes? Playing, just like everything else, is spirit in form. However, rarely, if ever, do we allow ourselves to really experience it as such. Typically, when we think about a spiritual practice, we generally mean doing something specific to really get in touch with the spiritual side of life, to get in touch with spirit, to commune with spirit. Certainly, a spiritual practice isn't something that's as base or as ignoble as play, right? Or is it? What if, at the end of the day, we're all just playing Twister with God? What if? So today I have 3 different ideas around this idea of playing Twister with God. The first is to get your foundation right. So think about playing Twister. Crazy game. I think that we would all agree that it's very important to get our foundations right. So we need to get the correct mat, right? That very noticeable, very famous twister game board, if you will, right? So we got to get that. We have to put it on some firm, even surface. I mean, you could make it a little bit more exciting if you had it on a foam mat, and that was made it even all the most harder. But really, you want to put it on a firm surface. Then we want to take off our shoes and our socks, because the shoes are just way too bulky and the socks are way too slippery. It's a game that is best played in our bare feet, so that we are more grounded, right? We're more grounded in our bare feet, and it allows us to have a better, firmer, more stable foundation as we play the game. Now, the same is true for building a deeper relationship with God. Getting our spiritual foundation right means that we at least have a reasonable grasp on the core concepts or the principles of the science of mind, right? And that we need to be open to the idea that spirit is more than just a proper, serious, grown-up kind of thing to do, but that it is actually something that is playful, something that actually shows up in everything, seen and unseen, and that it's okay for us to allow it to show up in play. In the Holmes paper, Ernest wrote, "God sings all the songs, dances all the dances, paints all the pictures, creates all the art, writes every book, and plays every game. There is no silliness that you can find that is outside of God." No silliness that you can find that is outside of God. The bottom line is that inherent in all of us human beings, is this God quality of play. It's inherent within us. We arrived on the planet with it, and it's most often easy to see that trait in children. That's why that unadulterated thing. It's more often easy to see in young children. The lighthearted way that children choose to really embrace their lives is an indication of our truest nature. Our truest nature as spiritual beings having a human incarnation. Children never think about, well, maybe I'm playing too much, or maybe I should be working, doing something like working instead of playing. They don't think about anything like that. They just live fully in the present moment, allowing Spirit to inspire them and to create through them. Playfulness, creativity, and joy are all God qualities, and we can and are encouraged to freely express them, and to express them without guilt and without any kind of shame. When we play, we're not full of ourselves. When we play, we are not looking for meaning. When we play, there is no winning or losing. We're just enjoying playing and finding pleasure in it, just for the sake of doing it, just for the sake of being in it. We have become so accustomed to thinking that we're only productive, or heavens, only worthy if we're working, or we're producing something, or we're accomplishing something. That it's a race-conscious belief that work is a necessity, and that doing something without purpose is a waste of time. Or that at least it's a waste of time once we've become an adult, right? It's okay when we're children, but when we become adult, it's a waste of time. We have to be willing to surrender those thoughts, those old beliefs, those old patterns in our life, and return to our innocence, return to being childlike, return to the emptiness of the blank slate that we arrived on the planet as. And now, this is not talking about an emptiness that's empty in the usual sense. It's more talking about the self-forgetting the self-forgetting emptiness that occurs when we play, or when we are overwhelmed by the beauty in art, or the creativity of nature that's all around us, or when we look into the eyes of a loved one. There's a emptiness of self that happens. We spend so much time being full of ourselves, or full of thoughts, our preoccupations, or our concerns running through our minds all of the time. The kind of emptiness that we experience through play invites us to lighten up, and invites us to really get out of our own way, which is what many of us really need to do in order to really be able to just thrive, to get out of our own way. Now, the very word play implies freedom. The very word play implies liberation. Whether it's on a sports field, or it's on a stage, or it's on a basketball court, or it's sitting in front of a game board, right? The designation play has the ability to remind us that we are spiritual beings embodied in an earth suit. That we're spiritual beings, that we don't always have to live our lives in a certain way tied to an old belief about our worth and about what's important in our lives. The reclaiming of our bodies and the playfulness that is inherent within them is a practice as freeing as it is connecting. Simply Simon says, there is something about play embraced as a spiritual practice that enables us to reclaim our bodies as temples of the Spirit and of God's abundant creativity. To reclaim God's gift of pleasure through the sun on our backs, or the air in our lungs, or the consuming focus of games into which we disappear for intervals of time. Like a bird song that has no purpose other than the simple pleasure of sound, or flowers that fill a garden with nothing but color. Play is a reclamation of all that is spare and surplus to life. It's the reclaiming of grace. Spare and surplus, but oh, so important. So important. The second idea is to get up close and personal. Now, when we play Twister, right? Think about the times that you've played. We inherently find ourselves up close and personal in all kinds of unexpected ways. Who hasn't dissolved into a fit of hysteria, or at least giggles, when we found our face in somebody else's armpit, while we were simply just trying to put our right foot on the green circle? Playing Twister with God is the same. No matter what we may think will happen, we are continually intertwined in unexpected ways. Change, surprise, failures, successes, they all happen in this game of life, in this game of Twister with God. As intuition feeds us the next step, right hand on yellow perhaps. The entire universe is swirling around us in a complementary dance, organizing things outside of ourselves, outside of our own lives, shifting us in a million different ways, and yet holding us up at the same time. Nothing and no one knows us better than Spirit. As we let Spirit all the way in, we get to really experience it. When we've freed up ourselves, when we're not in resistance, when we don't feel like we shouldn't be doing what we're doing by playing. Cultivating a life of joy involves making space for the play that actually lights us up, no matter what that is. It could be golfing, it could be bowling, it could be spending an evening with a very good friend. No matter what it is, make the space for the play that actually lights you up. When we start the game, God will always join in. Always. Remember when we were kids and we would go over to our friend's house and we would knock on the door and some adult would answer it and we would say, "Can Johnny come out and play?" Now, really, the truth is that this is life's constant inquiry of us. When we're looking at a beautiful sunset or looking into the eyes of a loved one or hiking in nature or laughing with a good friend or losing ourselves in a moment of play, that is really God or the universe saying to us, "Can you come out and play with me? Can you come out and play with me?" Are we willing to say yes? The final idea is to be ready to laugh. To be ready to laugh. To me, Twister is it's hysterical. I mean, hysterical. You can't ever play for more than just a couple of minutes because you're laughing so hard you end up in a big heap. But it's no more so than the joyful unfoldment of the infinite ways in which playing Twister with God delights and really surprises us. Are we willing to embrace the play of it? I can think of times in my life when a situation unfolded in a very unexpected way, with all kinds of twists and turns and nooks and crannies and things that I could have never made up. It was really twisted. And yet, it ended up in my highest and best. It was always, throughout the whole thing, always for me. And what I realized was that I actually could laugh at all of the different moments of it. A little more so in hindsight, but actually in the moment also, there were some pretty funny moments. Now, as Ernest Holmes says, if we are to know a God of joy, we must be joyful. Right? It's what we put out is what we get back. If we want to let in a God of joy and to really know a God of joy, we must be joyful. So the invitation is to let go of the confusion that tells us that spirituality has to be serious. And that play and laughter and joy are frivolous and unimportant. That is not the truth. Teilhard de Chardin says, joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. I love that. When we make the space inside of ourselves to really laugh, to live in the expression of joy, we are actually being our most God self. Take that on and go play, right? I believe that spirit has a sense of humor. I mean, just look at the world around us. If the Creator created anteaters, or the duck-billed platypus, or giraffes, or clownfish, or pink flamingos, or us, what's more funnier than we are? Surely the divine has a sense of humor and is really inviting us to nurture that in ourselves, inviting us to nurture a spirituality of play. Think about Coyote, Nasrudin, Zen masters, Taoist sages, Hasidic storytellers, and Saint Francis and his order of jesters of the Lord. Now, in all probability, most of you have never heard of some of these people. But what I want to say and what I want you to believe is that when I say that these prophets and others like them encourage us to not take ourselves too seriously. I mean it. There's some stories and some shenanigans around some of those people. So they encourage us not to take ourselves so seriously. And they say that what we know is not worth knowing. And what is worth knowing cannot be known through our human understanding. Look, I'm talking about playing. I'm going through puberty again. So, what we know isn't worth knowing. And what we don't know, we can't really know through our human understanding. To our sensible selves, their actions seem silly. They seem shameless and even shocking. But they have an important role in our spiritual life. They really carry the banner for the spiritual practice known as play. And they do it quite well. You can look them up later. So, the invitation this week is to practice play by doing things on the spur of the moment. To take time out to experiment, to try on different parts, to relax and to laugh heartily at jokes. And maybe I'll tell mine again. You could practice. To laugh at jokes and situations, and most importantly, to be able to laugh at yourself. Remember, laughter heals the body, mind, and spirit. By extension, our communities, our countries, and ultimately our world. The invitation this week is to take a playful pause. Taking a pause from our responsibilities of everyday life is necessary for our emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. I think about the times that I've been trying to do something, and I've been really struggling with it, and yet it doesn't seem to be coming to fruition. It doesn't seem to be working out. And when I those times, then I remember that in that moment I took a pause. I took time away from the project or from the task, and I played a little bit. Danced or sang or walked in the woods or did something more playful than what I was doing. And in doing that, I was suddenly inspired. When we pause from our daily activities and take the time to play, we're making sure that we stay in the flow. We're making sure that we stay in the synchronicity of life. The link between having fun and letting go of responsibility has to do with the idea of the Sabbath. Now, we don't talk about the Sabbath too much here, but the truth is that academians, that's how you say that word, academians, take sabbaticals like every 7 years in order to really rejuvenate themselves and to explore new avenues in their field. During a sabbatical, ideally one lets go of their millions of responsibilities in order to make room for growth. Now, that's the idea of the Sabbath, right? That one day in the 7-day week where God invites us to let go of the have-tos. The have-tos, and to recoup, to rejuvenate, to refill our own cup. Sabbaths remind us that ultimately we can trust God. We can trust the universe to keep the world turning while we check out for just one day. Sabbaths remind us that amazingly the world won't fall apart if we aren't on top of things every second of every day. It's not going to fall apart. Play doesn't ignore or diminish the significance of life or our own personal pain and struggle, or the pain and the struggle of others, the pain and the struggle that's going on in the world today? Cary Kent says, instead, when we choose for an hour or two to play, we place these fragile things carefully in God's hands, trusting them to God for a few minutes. It's like we've been invited into a game and we ask another bystander, here, can you hold my phone, my drink, my keys, so that I can play with full energy and abandon? Now, I believe that in doing so, we reclaim who we are at our very core. And we are reminded of our unity with the power and the presence of the divinity. And isn't that what spiritual practice is all about? Most of us don't play enough. We're either too busy, or we're too serious, or we're too predictable. The best treatment for these conditions is play. Particularly over the last couple of years, we've played less, right? Challenged by our experience with COVID and the anger, frustration, fear, and divisiveness that seems to be all around us, we need to look for the joy. We need to lighten up. If we try to incorporate play into our everyday lives, we may actually find a sense of wonder and a sense of joy and a sense of gratitude, raising our own vibrational levels and encouraging others to do the same, and ultimately shifting the vibrational level of the entire world. This week, with the wonder and the joy and play in our hearts, really the invitation is to explore ways in which we can let the God of joy into our lives. To seek ways to play, or to giggle, or to really just laugh out loud, and to celebrate the unimaginable beauty of a life spent playing Twister with God. And so it is. So it is. And so I just invite us to close our eyes and to turn within for a moment of prayer. Truly recognizing that we are spiritual beings encased in a earth suit, that who we are is divinity in form, that who we are is freedom, joy, balance, creativity, wisdom, abundance, love, and play. It is an innate thing that we arrived on the planet with. Who we were as children, we're more connected to it. And yet what I know is that we can reclaim that. We can return to that time of innocence, at least for moments during our days, so that we can connect with the God of joy. I know that we are one with it, despite what our human perceptions may be telling us, despite the ideas that we about how serious we are to be, how important it is for us to be productive at all times, and that joyfulness and just playing are frivolous. I know that that is not the truth, and I claim for each and every single one of us that there is that within us that knows that. It is that we are connecting with that which we are encouraged to bring back out into our lives in really wonderful ways. To get up close and personal as we play Twister with God. To remember who and whose we are and to live our lives from that space, knowing that it includes joy. To really put our foundation in place so that we can align with the truth of who we are as we create our lives moving forward, and to be prepared to laugh. Because I am telling you that sometimes the funniest things that have happened in my life were points along a path to something that I so desired, that was so right and perfect for me that I would never have imagined taking that route, and yet in the end it was perfect, and I had fun along the way. We are all here today, even though we've had twists and turns, and I am sure that each and every single one of us can look back on those moments and laugh. Joy is who we are inherently. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, and that our upcoming moments, our upcoming days, our upcoming weeks, our upcoming years, our upcoming lives are filled with joy because we now look to it and for it and welcome it and allow it. And so gratefully, I release these words into that law, letting go and letting God be God, and I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves and each other, for our community and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Amen. It is now time for our conscious offering. And while the baskets are going around, I just invite everyone to really hold their hands up against their heart with your gift and intention for our community, and to repeat these words after me. I am grateful for all that I receive, and I'm grateful for all that I may give. Now, the ways that we can give are up here on the board. And I have to walk down to Mevin to get out of the way of this. Is that the right direction? I have no idea. But anyway, visit our website, trianglecsl.org. Text GIVE to 919-230-8445, or send a check to PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina. Am I supposed to get louder when it's bigger and quieter when it's smaller, or what's the deal with that? I guess she's just playing with me in the theme of the month. Thank you, Heather. Love you. So now, thank you for your gifts. Your generosity is always so amazing and so wonderful, whether that's your time, your talent, or your treasure. This community is an amazing community, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. Thank you all so very much. And now, please, let's welcome the amazing Sandy Hemingway as he plays again.
This is a song I wrote, another instrumental. It's called Frenetic.
trianglecsl.org. On the home page, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. When we get that prayer, we send it out to all the ministers and the practitioners and expect a miracle. Right? All right. If anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone for anything, please contact Heather Abbott at info@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. And the next fun thing that's up for us is Community Game Night, The Lodge at Crossroads, Friday, March 11th. If you guys haven't been to one of these, you should go. It's really fun. The address is 200 Brisbane Woods Way in Cary. You can absolutely expect tons of games and tons of fun. It's from 6:30 to 9:30. Bring a snack to share and your own beverage. And we're going to have a community meeting on Sunday, March 20th from 2:30 to 4 on Zoom. A Zoom link will be sent out as it gets closer to the date. So that's a chance for everybody to really engage with each other, talking about the community, our services, all that. And join us for a wine tasting right here at Sophie's, Thursday evening, March 31st. The evening begins at 6:30 with a wine tasting. 4 different wonderful wines and 4 different delicious appetizers, excuse me, and an amazing experience facilitated by an excellent sommelier. The cost is $20 per person. The wine tasting will be followed by karaoke. Oh, good. We get a little wine and then we can, that's right. Loosen up those vocal cords. The wine tasting is just for our community. That'll be at 8. It's limited to the first 25 people that register. So send an email to Heather at trianglecsl.org. Right, Heather? Info at trianglecsl.org. And another exciting thing coming up, join Reverend Ryan Pulley on Saturday, April 2nd from 9 to 11 for a workshop addressing grief. The workshop is called Good Grief. Good grief. Is that even possible? Does grief serve a purpose? The experience of loss and grief is one that invites and sometimes drags us on a journey to a greater awareness of our true self. It creates a unique opportunity for profound insights to be discovered. This is not to say that the road is always easy. Often is rocky and fraught with turns and mislabeled paths. But the invitation is to take a chance, pack a bag, and uncover beauty you never thought possible. In this workshop, we will explore myths associated with grief and their impact, ways we can embrace grief as a natural process, ways we can find meaning in the face of grief and loss, how we can begin the process of integration through self-exploration, rebuilding, renewal, and transformation, and tools for the continued journey. The workshop will be on Zoom and is love offering based. And today is the lunch bunch here at Sophie's following the service, and we'll be celebrating March birthdays or whatever else you want to celebrate today. Okay, now, time for our affirmation, our March affirmation. So everyone in the comfort of your own home and here, please stand. This is a call and response. Please say it with meaning and repeat after me. I was created with an overflowing capacity for joy. When I live in the expression of joy, I am being my most God self. I make space within myself to really laugh, and the laughter reveals my wholeness. Ease and grace flow naturally as I live from this perspective. I turn away from the busyness of the world and consciously choose to tap into the sacred activity of play. I let go of the siren call to overwork and consciously take time to rest. As I do so, I open the door to a mystical life of balance. Heaven is right where I am, and all is well. And so it is. And now, one more time, let's close our outer eyes, and I will speak a benediction. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be together and to bring the idea of joy and light and fun into our consciousness, because we are truly beings of light and love, and joy is our natural way of being. And to all those haters who said to me, "Be serious," let's tell them there's a time for everything, and now is the time to be joyful. Now is the time to break out of that shell of winter, to let the light in, to let the joy out, and to just have fun. And in the words of the founding minister of this church, Reverend Ray Matheny, let's show God a good time. And so it is.
Thank you all so very much for joining us today. This is the path to the bathroom. So grateful to have you all here at Sophie's and for inviting us into your homes. The invitation this week is to continue to have our thoughts and our prayers focused on the people of the Ukraine and Russia, and to know that right where all of the leaders of the entire world are, God as wisdom is. Have a really wonderful week. I love you.